so let's say we have some small businesses listening to this, and or somebody that's, any kind of business, agency, whatever kind of business it is. And, what can you make the case for them to learn AI, to really take the time and block that time, and like why they should do it? Like, are they going to be left behind? What make the case for them?
Yeah. So I think you've hit the nail on the head, right? AI is here, particularly if you're a knowledge worker, if you're somebody that falls into that category. People working with their hands. I think there are still actually ways, we can talk about how plumbers might use it, but if you're a knowledge worker, AI is here. The report from a couple of months ago, Microsoft surveyed 30,000 knowledge workers. 75% of them said that they were using it. By the way, that was up from 46% just 6 months earlier. So the rate of uptake, so I'm guessing that by now it's probably 80, 85, maybe 90%. I mean, it's accelerating. It's here. It's not a question of if. It's a question of when. And so, yes, if you're not leveraging AI as best you can, you will be left behind. Maybe not this week, maybe not, but again, it is not going to replace you. It's going to enable you to do the little jobs that you don't want to do faster, easier. There's lots of ways that you can leverage it.
Now, please do this. And I'm like, this is silly.
Right. I just find it funny because I say thank you all the time too, and I know that it needs to reply to my thank you. So it's like, yeah, no problem. Like, anytime, anything else you need, let me know. I'm like, I didn't need to say that. I'm just making it do more work.
Yep. Well, sometimes with some of I created a custom GPT to help with problem solving. And I have as one of the last things, ask if there's anything else and wish me luck. I want you to wish me luck because I know that we were working on a problem and we've come up with a solution and you've given me an action plan that it's on me to actually implement. Because it won't do your dishes for you. And so it's still on you to implement. And so I told it, hey, make sure to wish me luck when all is said and done, because that's important.
Awesome. Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable From the Trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another The Builders. Today, we're going to have a fun one. We're joined by two people.
How about that?
Steve and Suzy Kirch. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be here.
Thanks so much, Matt.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. So what we should probably say up front is you two are related, right?
We are.
I think we know who's the older of the two, right? Or no? Or am I?
Yeah.
Like, are you the son or is this the daughter?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, we have dad and daughter here today, who are partnering up on a venture. Now, Suzy's the AI guru of the bunch. And Steve, what did we call you? The managing partner in this venture?
I'm a coach-sultant.
A coach-sultant.
Yeah, because sometimes I'm coaching and sometimes I'm consulting.
You're going to be like a sultan. Isn't that like
Yeah, no.
We need to get you a hat.
Yeah. Right. Coach-sultant.
Sultant. Yeah. All right. Well, what we always do on The Builders when we have somebody on or two people on for the first time is talk about your origin story, how you got started on this journey, your whole journey, the short version, long version, however we're going to do that, and how you ended up doing the amazing things you're doing in the world or plan to do with the new venture. And how we're going to do this, I'm going to hand it over to the both of you. I know that there's some intertwining of your story. There's probably your origins are kind of together, but then maybe you went off and now you're back together. Who wants to start?
Well, I'll start because
Okay.
my story starts before hers.
True. Yes.
So
We hope so.
yeah. Yeah. So I have a PhD in physics, which is a little bit weird for somebody that's doing the business coaching consulting that I'm doing now, but it does all make sense. I spent about 9 years working at IBM in upstate New York, and actually Suzy was born in Poughkeepsie. So that's one of the ways that our stories are intertwined. And then Intel recruited me to come to California. And we moved to California, and I started at Intel when Suzy was 2 months old.
Wow.
So she was born in New York, but raised in California. We've been here now 30 years. I spent 22 of those years at Intel, doing a wide variety of things in the engineering management space. But early on in my time at Intel, I got introduced to the Covey 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh, yeah.
And was offered the opportunity to take the class because they were rolling it out to the entire organization. And while I'd read the book a number of years earlier, one of the things that I discovered about those self-development books, if you don't do the work, it doesn't change your life.
True. Very true.
So anyway, but I was afforded the opportunity to actually do the work. We had a whole week to take us through the 7 habits.
Wow.
And it was transformational. And when I found out they were looking for instructors, I put my hand up.
Really?
And so I became a certified facilitator of the 7 habits. And one of the cool things about Intel as a company is that they require all senior leaders to teach at least 3 classes a year. It's the way they perpetuate the culture. So I was often asked to teach that or some other course of that ilk, whether it was, professional or personal development, organizational things. I did a lot of different kinds of teaching, but I really enjoyed it. And so when I contemplated this thing they call retirement, yes, it's funny, isn't it, Suzy? Because I now consider myself permanently semi-retired. I do this work because I really love it. It's so much fun.
That's what we all
And you'd be really bored if you didn't.
It's true.
Right.
And it would drive mom nuts.
Yes.
That's funny.
But so I hung out a shingle as a productivity coach. And what I discovered most fundamentally was that small business owners have absolutely no clue what their time is worth. Well, and part of that, look, you're changing hats 17 times a day, right? It's 5 minutes you're doing this, and then 5 minutes you're doing this, and then maybe 10 minutes or an hour you're working with a client, right? You're doing something really valuable. But the point here is that if you can't figure out the starting value and you can't figure out what the ending value is, there's no way to calculate an ROI to know whether or not it's worth engaging a coach, right? And so I got a lot of pushback. Being a lifetime learner, I've added over time a wide variety of things to my coaching toolbox. And of course, I'm still a productivity geek, but I also can help with business growth. We'll call it strategic marketing if you want, how to grow the top and bottom line. I also have become very steeped in business scaling. Books like Scaling Up, Vern Harnish, Traction by Gino Wickman, and a book, World Class Speed by Peter Fuller, which is the latest generation of that, the Rockefeller Habits, and a platform that I use there to help businesses scale. A number of months ago, I came across a training protocol for AI. And it blew me away. Now, I dabbled with AI a little bit, but the opportunity that was there and the need that I see when I talk to people who say, yeah, we're doing stuff with AI, but we don't really know what we're doing, right? And I'm going to turn it over to Suzy at this point, because that's where her story winds up intertwining with mine, and the reason that I reached out to her to become my AI guru.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Suzy, go for it.
Yeah, so
start at the beginning.
Yeah. Well, we already got the early years.
Yes.
I followed in my parents' footsteps a little bit, not because I needed to, but because that's what I loved. I studied math and physics in college, and then went on to Boston University, where I got my master's in mathematics. Comically enough, my older sister, went to Boston University for her undergrad degree. So kind of all links in there. But I wound up studying mathematics, and while in grad school, I was working at a small AI startup, and kind of just got thrown into research. They were like, here's a couple of research papers and a copy of our first patent spec. Go. And like, good luck, try to figure it out. Let us know what questions you have. Which is quite a vote of confidence, and also a little bit terrifying when you're like, I don't know anything about this. And so I was very quickly needing to learn all about the different pieces of artificial intelligence and how it works and how all these different models work and what are all these different models anyway. And very quickly wound up not just part of the patent team, but even as an intern, wound up leading the patent team, and really spearheading a lot of the patent related efforts. And so through those few years that I was working at this small company, Cognizer.
After she graduated, they hired her full time, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So continued as a full-time intern, or as a full-time employee, no longer an intern. Continued as part of the patent team, wound up with 6 pending patents to my name. I'm the primary inventor on 2 of them. And it was at that point that Dad reached out. He knows of my knowledge and background and understanding of AI and my ability to explain things to people, even if they're not super technically minded. And so asked if I wanted to join him on this venture. I semi-jokingly suggested that my title be AI Guru, and then we both decided that actually worked really well. So here we are. But one of the most interesting things for me, I think, as I've gone through kind of this change and shift in what I'm doing, is as a researcher, as part of the patent team, I was always focused on the problems of AI. All of its shortcomings, all of the problems it has, where it screws up, what it doesn't understand well. So you wind up poking all these holes in it. So it's like looking at a piece of Swiss cheese. When you're focused on all the holes, you don't think you have that much cheese. And so now what we're doing, which is teaching people to use generative AI more efficiently, more effectively, and to get their work done, all of a sudden I'm now looking at the things that it actually does do well, which is, of course, more than I realized because I was focusing on all the problems. So it's been really, really fun for me, just learning, oh, it actually can do a whole bunch of stuff well, and it doesn't actually suck at everything. It just sucked at the things that I was focusing on because that was literally my job. So
yeah, that's wild. So I find it, so to kind of tie you two together here, so I find it very interesting, both your stories, like how you kind of stumbled or were given an opportunity. Like Suzy, you got the opportunity to work for a startup that was just happened to be doing AI and just happened to probably leverage all your the numbers in you, the mathematician,
yeah.
the physics, all that stuff, that kind of brain that you have that you could fit perfectly with that type of role. And then, of course, Steve, you're just working at Intel, and they're like, you need to coach. You need to teach stuff. And you're like, I kind of like this stuff. I always find it fascinating when I hear people, especially somebody that's been in corporate or whatever, and they stumble upon something that's completely random, that somebody gave them an opportunity or something fell in their lap. And then they realize, oh, this is what I really like to do. This is actually really interesting, and let's see where it goes. So it's cool that you found those things and kind of found something you're passionate about. And then the alignment. Steve, you're recognizing a problem that people are trying to do AI stuff, but they have no idea what they're doing, especially because most people are non-techies. I think a good percentage, especially people in business, are like, I know I should be doing it, but I have no idea where to start, or this is confusing. I don't like talking to an interface, whatever. And, but to reach out then and connect and think, oh, maybe we could work together and help people. That's awesome. So.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I recognized was Suzy's real superpower in her ability to take stuff that's technical and explain it to people who are not.
Yeah, that's a talent.
It is. I think it is an under-recognized talent. Certainly amongst the tech folks, because the tech folks all tend to talk to one another. But that was the thing that caused her to be the head of the patent team at this startup, was because she could take these things that are really, really technical. And by the way, she's very detail oriented. So she would say, what you've described here isn't exactly right, and this picture doesn't exactly fit, but she would be able to explain it to the lawyers so that they could do it properly. Right? Yeah. Because if the patent isn't right, it's not worth the paper it's written on. Right. So that value then translates nicely into this AI teaching that we're doing, because again, many people, as you correctly point out, many small business owners who know they ought to embrace AI think that this is a real technology that they don't understand. They can't understand. Right.
Yeah. 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 It's, it is a talent. And I remember getting complimented once. I was working with another agency, one of our partners, and we had just come from like a client meeting, and he's like, you're really good at explaining the techie stuff. He was saying that to the client. He's like, listen to Matt; he'll explain it, in your terms, so he won't get into the weeds with the techie stuff. And I think it's important. And especially with AI, I think that's, everyone hears that word AI constantly. But if you go online, a lot of it's technical, a lot of it's, confusing, and we need people in the world like you to translate the tech, or to filter all the technical jargon out and all that, and get to the bones. So one of the things that, I think, use this kind of analogy you used before, where we're talking about like all the Swiss cheese, like you looked at all the problems, right? And again, it's kind of like software, like you get software and can have a lot of options, a lot of things, but you just need to figure out how to use it for yourself and your purpose and what you're doing. And I think that's probably a huge key to with these AI tools, whether it's ChatGPT or anything else. It's like, it's overwhelming. There's a lot of things it can do, but it's really, how do you zero in on the things that and how you can leverage it in your business?
Yeah. Well, and one of my favorite things to do is to ask ChatGPT how to use ChatGPT, or, your generative AI of choice. It's one of those where we think of it as this weird meta thing, like, how can this actually make sense? But it really just responds very, matter-of-factly as it does to everything else. And here's the prompt that you could use to help you do whatever thing that you're trying to do. And so that's one of those tools that we have at our fingertips that I think a lot of people forget about. Is there's nothing wrong with asking ChatGPT how to use it to help you do a thing. If you know what deliverable or what, project you want help with, there's nothing that says that you can't say, hey, can you help me create an action plan or an SOP? And then can you give me prompts for each step to help me use AI to its greatest capacity? And so one of the things that you can do is take your role, describe your role, take your LinkedIn page, whatever, and just say, hey, what are some deliverables that you can help me with based on my job? You know, it has an understanding of what you're doing, believe it or not. Like it can at least, you know, have a basic understanding of this is your role, so it likely includes these things, right? Generative AI is a predictive model. All it is doing is predicting the next word based on the context it already has. So having the context of this is the type of company I'm at, this is my job title, this is a little bit of my role description, it will be able to go, okay, well, based on that context, here are some of the things you're likely doing. And then you can go into each of those and go, okay, well, what's a standard operating procedure for this specific thing? And give me an action plan. And, oh, can you help me create a day-to-day checklist? Because I know I'm going to forget 12 of these steps if I'm left to my own devices. Or I need to plan it into 2 hours a day, 3 days a week, and complete it over the next month because that's all the time that I have, right? You can use it in a lot of different ways. And I think there's almost this overwhelm of choice when you're like, cool, I can do all of these things. Great, now what?
Where do I start? Yeah.
And so figuring out where to start, and that's one of the ways that we try to help people is figure out, where do you start? Where can you start? And just starting with like, what are some of the deliverables you're working on? Right? There's nothing that says that you have to plan 12 months out to get it to bring you any value.
Yeah. I love the idea of context, because I think that's something that I use a lot. Like when I'm trying, you don't just sit down, which I'm sure some people try to do, just sit down and go do this task or do this for me, write this for me, or, you know, but giving it some background, like this is what I'm trying to do. This is what my company is, or this is what, you know, the scenario. And this is the role I want you to play. I want you to be my SEO expert or my senior web development guru. And then it can give you and then you take that and then you start drilling into, like you're talking about, giving it more context, like, you know, where are we going from here? You know, well, how do you want me to approach this? What's the best way for us to do this? It's like a partner in a way you're working with.
Yeah. And we encourage people to really think of it as a thought partner. Right? It's not trying to take your job. It's not trying to take over what you're doing. Your expertise is so valuable and is so needed because it can do a good job of, you know, some of the copy editing and stuff like that. But you still need to make sure that it's not hallucinating and making up information. Yeah. You need to make sure that it's actually adhering to, say, the laws of physics. Right? Like you need to make sure that it's actually paying attention to correct information, that it's focusing on the right strategy. If you already have a strategy developed and it doesn't have that information, well, you're going to need to have it adjust for that, right? If it doesn't have the information, it can't do the thing.
You have to give it a starting point. You have to give it some information first.
For sure.
I think the thing that I find most interesting is when I'm doing that kind of exploratory, brainstorming, if you will, with ChatGPT. And by the way, you can do a conversation on your phone with the ChatGPT app and have a brainstorming session that's verbal. That's one of the things that you can do, and people don't necessarily think about doing those.
And by the way, you'll have a transcript of it when you get back to your desk.
Right.
So, but it will it will come up with a completely different approach to the problem than you would have thought of.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That because we have a perspective, the perspective of the generative AI engine is going to be broader than what we can think of, right? It's because it's been trained by lots of different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think brainstorming is one of the biggest uses I have, besides like we're helping with content or whatever. It's strategizing, brainstorming. It's, give me some ideas, and then that can stem off to, and just keep drilling down and iterating on that. And you can it can create, it's created whole docs for me, and this is my strategy now, based on what we've talked about, or it's just thrown into a brainstorming doc. But that's, it's really powerful that way. Cause we can think, we need something that can stimulate ideas. And if you can't just do it in your own head, because you're just got an echo chamber in there. You need something that can help you bring new ideas to the table.
And that doesn't have anything to do with how empty your head is, by the way. It's still an echo chamber.
That's right. Well, you mentioned, that's funny. Okay. You mentioned,
you were the one that said it, Matt.
We're not going to talk about, I want to talk about hallucinations now in my head. What you mentioned hallucinations before. What does that mean?
Yeah. So, when we're talking about a generative AI hallucinating, that's one of the words that is used to describe it making something up. So it's making up information that isn't actually correct. I don't know if you guys remember within the last, I think, year or two maybe, but within the last few years, there was a lawyer, I want to say in New York, that had used generative AI to help him write some, for a court trial, and had asked generative AI to help him write something, and the foundational previous cases that he used never existed. They never happened. They were completely fake, completely made up, which of course did not go well once he was in a real court trial.
You got to check your facts, folks.
Right. So you always need that one person that's just gonna do it really wrong. Yes.
Yeah.
For the rest of us to learn.
The other one.
But another one is if you're asking it to create an image and create a copy of this image, it's gonna mostly do it, but it's always gonna be a little bit different. And so one of the issues, if you're trying to just hey, can you color in this image? It's gonna make some changes that you didn't ask for. Because again, it's generating the next word, or an image is the next pixel. That's what it knows. So it knows the context it has, and so all it's doing is making a prediction of the next thing. And so it's like when you do the you're getting together with your friends, you're telling a story, each person's saying one word to create the next story, and it just takes one word for it to go in a very strange direction. And all of a sudden you have a toaster that talks and is making blueberry muffins in its easy bake oven, because obviously, right? It doesn't take much for it to veer off track, because it's just predicting the next word.
Yeah. Steve, you have something?
Yeah. So the other story that I like is that they were training this AI engine to recognize cancer in images.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And discovered that the computer figured out that it was the ruler that caused cancer, because every one of the images had a ruler in it. That was the common thing.
Cancerous, because it was cancerous versus benign.
Right.
It was just, little skin growths. And every cancerous image had a ruler. So clearly, if you just remove the ruler,
cancer is gone, right? So you have to be careful. You have to double check, students when they're doing research papers, or they're doing papers, if they want to have sightings, you better check to make sure that because you can ask it, to give us the citation, right? Better check and make sure that's a real article and that the article actually says what you're attributing to it. So that's one of those dangerous things that you have to be careful. You have to use your brain. And again, as Suzy said, AI isn't, at least not yet. Now, 5-10 years from now, don't know. But right now, AI still requires your expertise to double check, to make sure that this makes sense, that this is something I want to accomplish. This is a reasonable path. Most of the time it's right, but not 100%.
Yeah. Check and verify, make sure what it's telling. And that's and I think this is a great point, because it's not replacing us. We still are there. It's still a tool, but we still have to verify what it's like. If I would have it write some code, it's not necessarily, I still should be checking that code and making sure that it's going to work in the way we're trying to do things. But that's interesting. So what is, from that standpoint and using it in your business? So what are some of the ways people, like a small business, you talked about, you kind of guide people into, what they can use it for. What are some of the common things people are using for, like a small business is using AI for right now?
Yeah, so this is one of those interesting things. The ways that people can use AI really depend on what they're doing in the first place. So if you have somebody who's a marketing person at their company, they're going to have, some marketing uses for it. They're going to help it maybe come up with different ideas or places to start, or an SOP, but specifically for a marketing something or other, right? But if you have somebody at that same company and they're doing research, they're going to have a different series of things that AI is going to help them with. And so the power of generative AI and the series and approach the series of courses and the approach that we take is, we firmly believe that every employee can take every deliverable and learn to create that deliverable better, faster, cheaper, and easier using AI. And so very quickly, you are able to get so much time back. You don't have to spend 30 hours on the weekend once a month doing your financial report that you probably don't want to do anyway, because you can train and teach an AI model the method that you go through it. And now all you have to do is feed in the information and double check the results at the end. And now it's taking 20 minutes instead of 30 hours, right? You can get those kinds of gains and that amount of time back. And so you're able to almost shift the way that you work on things, because you're not being so bogged down in the everyday, whether it's drudgery or mundane work that you're probably dragging your feet doing, right? Everybody has that one task that they don't want to do, but they need to do anyway. There's always one. For me, I really would love if generative AI can do my dishes for me. That would be great.
So we haven't figured that one out yet, but
robotics is coming.
Yeah,
they'll merge with it.
Yeah, eventually we'll get there, right? But that's one of those things of, everyone has those things that they don't like doing. Well, you can help yourself by getting and building a custom GPT so that you don't have to do nearly so much of it, right? It can help offload some of the work and take some of that effort. So now your brain's free to do some thinking and expand your role, figure out some other directions that you can move in, right? Think more strategically about what you're doing.
Right.
Dad, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, it's just the thing that we do, as Suzy so eloquently said, right, was we enable every employee to deliver every deliverable, to produce every deliverable faster, cheaper, better, easier with AI. And the gains are amazing. One client, there was a group of about 10 people, that took through just the first hour of training. And the return was, if we assume a $50 an hour, was $4,000 per employee average. Wow. In just 1 hour of training. The ROI is astronomical.
And we're talking here, it's like a lot of people fear that AI is going to replace jobs and it's going to do, everyone's going to blink out. If you are a Marvel fan, you're going to like snap your finger and half of everybody's going to be gone. But I'm a nerd.
Yeah, but we're not. So this is
yeah. So you just got to put the Infinity Stone back, and then it's all good.
That's right. There you go. But the reality is, it's allowing all of us and everybody in a team, everyone in a company, everyone's given these tools, and their productivity increases. You're just able to do more, better, and quicker, and focus more on the things that matter, and get rid of the repetitive tasks. So and
the other thing is that, Suzy talked a little bit about it, but we help each employee come up with that list of deliverables. We actually create for them, or help the AI creates it for them. I shouldn't say we create it, but with the help of AI, create an 8x8 matrix of deliverables for the employee. Now, even if you're a solopreneur, we did this morning with a group of solopreneurs, and said, what's your job? What's your role? What's your company? Right? It basically comes up with 8 different categories of deliverables, right? 8 areas of responsibility, and then 8 deliverables for each of those areas. And then for each of those, comes up with how would you do that using AI, and how much money or how much time would you save, right? And it's almost always half or more time savings. And some of those deliverables are probably things you should be doing, but you haven't,
or you forgot about,
or right.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, the different. I mean, I did this for myself, right? Oh, I really should do that, right? So I started Chat GPT. Hey, how can you help me do this?
Right. Yeah, well, I think so. I'll use a couple of examples that are popping in my head. A couple of ways I use AI in a lot of different ways, but one of the ways is just saving time. Like I have a little custom GPT that I just thought of this one day. I'm like, I spend a lot of time. So I work with an international team, and their English is good. And I understand most of what they're saying, how they're structuring things, and what they actually mean in the end. And they're doing they got all the key things there. But when I turn around and have to relay that to a client, I have to often rewrite it, make, sentence structure, do it in a way that I know that they're going to better understand. Well, I created a Chat GPT, and I said, basically I taught it to clean it up if I'm going to provide this to a client. And now, so if my team gives me something like that, I can drop it into this Chat GPT, and I don't even have to say anything. I just drop it in, and it just does the thing. And so that's one way. But the other thing is, like, you talk about deliverables. Now let's talk about podcasts for a minute. Podcasts, like I used to, when I first started, I've been doing this for almost 4 years. In the beginning, I wrote everything myself. And then I went through a phase when ChatGPT kind of came along, and I remember I had to cut things up because I couldn't get the whole transcript in there. I had to do all this stuff. and try to get some titles and some descriptions. But I was mostly writing this description still and whatever. But as time went on, I got to a point where now I'm using a solution where it not only can create the titles, create the descriptions, key takeaways. It also creates the table of contents for me with the timestamps. It does all that in one go in a few minutes. And now I'm still going to tweak it. I'm still going to look at those titles and play around with it. But it got me like 95% there. And I think that's one example, but there's probably so many things in people's businesses where they can do the same thing, whether it's content or any other activities.
Right. Yeah. The biggest shift in just thought process, right? Because that's the first thing is understanding, one, you're not being replaced, but then two, it's not if generative AI can help, it's how can generative AI help, right? If you open your mind up to the idea that AI can help you do something, you might think of it yourself, or you can just ask ChatGPT, right? But
hey, how can you help me with this?
Yeah. I'm trying to do this thing, right? How can you help me? What are some prompts I could use? Or, I'm working on this goal, but I'm dealing with this obstacle and it's preventing me from completing the goal or accomplishing whatever. And so how can you help me? Or what are some things that I can do to try to get past this obstacle?
I think this is like one of the biggest takeaways going to be from this podcast right now is that if you don't know where to start, ask ChatGPT. Ask the AI, and it will actually tell you. Or give you some ideas.
It will give you some ideas, right?
You can ask it to ask you questions too.
Yeah.
What questions do you want?
That's one of the tools that we teach people to build is you can get it to ask clarifying questions. I have this problem. Right. Well, what do you mean by that? And ask several questions. And we'll ask them in turn. And in each question will depend on the answer to the previous question.
Right.
But you have to tell it that that's what you want. Right? It's not just going to do this automatically. You need to say, hey, I want you to ask these questions in this specific way with this specific style of answer in this specific format. And oh, by the way, you need to do it's
ask
not
them one at a time, right?
Magically read your mind and know exactly what you want. It's going to come up with something different every time unless you specify, right? It is generating the thing. And so it may generate it differently 5 out of 5 times.
Yeah. I mean, you can use tools. So like in ChatGPT, if you got the pro version, there's like custom instructions and things. Also, one of the things I use personally for certain tasks is I use something called Alfred app for the Mac. Where you can create snippets and drop snippets in. So I created snippets that would give it the background information, that context, and how I want the style of writing I want and all that kind of stuff. So right away out of the gates, you can even say, here it is. My next prompt, I'll ask you what I need or whatever. And I'll be like, okay, cool. But that's, one of the things, let's dig into this a little bit. Because this is only a 3 or 4 hour podcast, so we want to keep things moving along here.
Yeah.
So, that's good. So we're talking about we're throwing around the word ChatGPT, GPTs, custom GPTs. Can you explain a little bit about what the differences are there, what they are, and what tools are available? And then there's this word out there called I heard it like a year or so ago. I had another AI person on here. They started talking about AI agents. And can I explain a little bit of what that is and what the future kind of looks like in that arena?
Yeah. So ChatGPT is the probably most commonly used and most commonly talked about generative AI. So generative AI being this tool, this type of artificial intelligence that is predicting the next word, or an image is predicting the next pixel, That's all it's doing. That is what it is trained to do. And in that way, it generates the text or code or what have you based on the context it already has. Right? So
other common models,
yep.
Copilot, Claude.
Yep.
Llama.
Perplexity has one.
Yeah.
I think Meta's is called Llama.
Right.
Gemini, right?
Gemini.
Google has one called Gemini. Right. So all of these are different generative AI models. So they're all built to predict the next word. That is how they are trained. Their knowledge base, or the set of information that it is trained on, we usually call that a knowledge base, could very well be slightly different. Right? Its values, how it is built, is a little bit different, but it's all built to predict the next word. And so as we're looking at generative AI, it works on the scale of kind of general intelligence. So most of the kind of best models in artificial intelligence are very specific things, right? So we've had a model that's learned to play chess, and you get a chess master to play an AI, right? But
that's what they would call narrow AI, or something that's just a very specific thing.
But if you ask that same AI that's learned to play chess, and you're saying, okay, now you're going to play this game called Sorry against a 5-year-old. The 5-year-old will likely win because it is a different rule set, right? It works differently. The game has a different starting point, a different ending point, different rules, a different objective, right? All of these things are different. And so all of a sudden, all of those things that it's learned, that it's trained, the thousands of hours of gameplay, the hundreds of thousands of hours of gameplay that it's been trained on, now that just goes out the window, right? Because it doesn't understand this game that most of us consider to be very simple and easy, as fun as it may still be, right? So that's the idea of general intelligence, is having it be kind of good at more than just one thing. And so with AI agents, we're looking at, in some ways, having generative AI say it's like, hey, you are going to be an expert in this specific thing, right? You are going to be an expert in copywriting or in content creation, or I need an expert to help me with this specific marketing campaign. And so you can create a workflow between generative AI and itself. And each time you give it a new role. I need you to be the psychology expert, and then pass that information to the brand story expert, to then pass that information to, right, the copywriter or whoever else, right? So you can give generative AI kind of these role assignments where you're saying, now you are the expert at this thing. And so you're getting it to kind of hone in and focus on this particular area of its content knowledge. And so now it's able to follow through a workflow that you need it to do all of. And so it can get from point A to point B on its own. And it's very interesting to see generative AI kind of correct and edit itself, right? Because you can have it say, okay, here's this copy. I need you to give me suggestions. Don't do anything. Just give me the suggestions. Okay, great. Now can you edit the copy based on the suggestions you've already given, right? And so you can have it go back and forth with itself as it's switching between these different roles.
By the
So
way,
that
you can do the same thing with code,
Yeah.
right? If you have the generative AI create code for a website, you can say, okay, what are some of the ways you could improve this? And then, okay, now improve it, and it will make it better.
Yeah. Like, please look at this code base or this.
Yep.
Because you can have it look like some of the editors already have AI built into them where you can just say, hey, look at the standards from this perspective or whatever. Are there any issues here? Can you add the comments for me? And those type of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think so the next thing though would be to integrate these systems, and maybe we're getting into the future a little bit, but where you could have it do these things and then actually take the action, like actually go post that content or go publish that website or go, send an email to somebody.
Yeah.
That's got to make it like if you have it do this whole string of things, this whole workflow, and at each point you got different. Maybe would you have like a master AI, like looking over everything, making sure everything's flowing or errors or anything like that?
Yes. And also, right, this comes back to it's not replacing your expertise.
Right,
so
you're still,
you can have, so oftentimes if you're creating one of these workflows, you may start with a project lead who delegates, who determines who's working on what thing. And then they go through it. You have it go through all the workflow. You have the project lead double check everything, right? Make sure that everything's correct, make whatever edits need to be made, but you still need to double check the work. So personally, I wouldn't have a model go through, do the whole thing, and then send it out immediately. I'd have it notify me, telling me that the work's done. Now I can spend the 5-10 minutes double checking the whole thing, or, longer if it's a big, long document, right? Because you can have it create, long form text. But, it's still important that you read and make sure that the information is correct, that it's gone through the correct steps, that it's actually paying attention to the correct information, it's focusing on the right things. And then, of course, if there's a mistake along the way, you can go back to the model and say, hey, I need you to make adjustments based on this thing. Here are my edits. And I now need you to go back and fix these things about it.
And this isn't anything different than having a team member or like a developer. I think when you're talking about this, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have this developer go create this feature or do this task. That doesn't mean we don't have a system in place to QA that, to quality assurance, make sure it was done. I just caught something yesterday. I was going through, I had this long list I had given to the developer, and there was this one thing that was not translated properly. And I just fixed it on the fly or whatever. And so that you still should be checking to make sure everything is quality and having that.
Well, we like to describe generative AI as a tireless intern. They will not complain if you ask them to do the same thing 20 different times, making little tweaks each time. Like, they're not going to complain. Mm-hmm. They'll go, great, I'll have it for you right away. And so it's one of those things where you can ask it to do the same task over and over and over again, and that's okay.
Doesn't get bored. Doesn't take a coffee break. Yeah. It doesn't, right? It's
you set it working, and it comes back with the thing. And you
can say, no, that's not quite right. That's not what I meant. That's not what I said, right?
Make this adjustment. Focus on this thing instead of that, right? All of these little adjustments are things that you can ask it to do. That there are no issues with you asking it to redo the work. Even if it's already spent however much time and it's gone through the full workflow, you can always say, hey, I need you to back up to this step because we need to focus on this thing instead. Restart the process from here and go through the rest of it, making this change.
Its feelings aren't hurt by that. Yeah.
Yeah, it won't
No.
even. Yeah, it won't cry. It won't.
I mean,
Yeah.
some people, it's really interesting the way that people phrase prompts too. Like, I find myself using please a lot of the time.
So do I.
Yeah.
Like,
Thank you. Yeah.
please,
Thanks for
please
doing that.
create this thing, or please make this adjustment. Do I need to? No. But
I just
my mom and
love.
dad raised me to be very polite, to remember my please and thank you. So
Oh,
I
man.
very commonly will say, please do this thing. Like, please make this change. Now, please do this. And I'm like, this is silly. All
I
right.
just find it funny because I say thank you all the time too, and I know that it needs to reply to my thank you. So it's like, yeah, no problem. Like, anytime, anything else you need, let me know. I'm like, I didn't need to say that. I'm just making it do more work.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
sometimes with some of my, I created a custom GPT to help with problem solving. And I have as one of the last things, like, ask if there's anything else and wish me luck. Like, I want you to wish me luck because I know that we were working on a problem and we've come up with a solution and you've given me an action plan that it's on me to actually implement. Because it won't do your dishes for you. And so it's still on you to implement. And so I told it, hey, make sure to wish me luck when all is said and done, because that's important.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. So, I got to be careful because I can literally talk about AI all day long. I want to throw something to Steve. So, because you're the coach in this forum. So let's say we have some small businesses listening to this, and or somebody that's, any kind of business, agency, whatever kind of business it is. And, what can you make the case for them to learn AI, to really take the time and block that time, and like why they should do it? Like, are they going to be left behind? What make the case for them?
Yeah. So I think you've hit the nail on the head, right? AI is here, particularly if you're a knowledge worker, if you're somebody that falls into that category. People working with their hands. I think there are still actually ways, we can talk about how plumbers might use it, but if you're a knowledge worker, AI is here. The report from a couple of months ago, Microsoft surveyed 30,000 knowledge workers. 75% of them said that they were using it. By the way, that was up from 46% just 6 months earlier. So the rate of uptake, so I'm guessing that by now it's probably 80, 85, maybe 90%. I mean, it's accelerating. It's here. It's not a question of if. It's a question of when. And so, yes, if you're not leveraging AI as best you can, you will be left behind. Maybe not this week, maybe not, but again, it is not going to replace you. It's going to enable you to do the little jobs that you don't want to do faster, easier. There's lots of ways that you can leverage it. It's not, again, but it will also provide you with a different perspective on what you might want to do. In this, as I said, in this 8x8 matrix, there were a number of those things. Oh gosh, I really should be doing that, but I'm not. Well, I wonder if I can get it done fast enough using AI, leveraging AI, that it's not going to add that much burden to me, but I can still add one more thing that I'm actually getting done. So that's the case that I would make. Yes, it's going to take some amount of effort and time to learn these skills, but at some point the transformation will take place that you will go from, gee, I wonder if AI can help, to let me sit down here because I know AI can help me.
Yeah.
And when you do that, that's when it really frees you to move to the next level.
And I would imagine that it's magnified if you turn around and you encourage your team and you teach you
Oh, absolutely.
ask your team to learn and really encourage them to use these tools and find their own way and how it can help them and
Right.
improve their efficiency and whatever.
Right. And the other thing that happens with when we do this full transformation matrix, right? By the end of the full transformation process, if you have gone through and filled out all 64 boxes for all of your deliverables, and that's obviously going to take longer than a week, we basically do like one-ish a week, right? So 15 months, right? You're going to have a complete training plan because you're going to be so good at your job and so efficient and effective, probably worth a promotion, certainly worth more money to your employer, right? Mm-hmm. But not only that, but when you leave that position, because everybody does eventually leave, just like every small business owner does exit their business. Sometimes it's in a pine box, but we won't go there. The point is that when you're leaving, you now have a full training manual for the person that takes your job.
Right.
So, because you're creating videos.
Because you're creating
showing that, I've completed this deliverable with the use of AI, and this is how.
Wow.
That's part of how you get certified through the series of courses that we teach. Is you show that you are doing these deliverables, that you are completing these deliverables, and you are using AI, and you do in fact know how to do this. So you're creating these videos. So now, right, you can create a company database of these kinds of training videos, of the different custom GPTs that people have created. Right? Those can be shared across the company. There's nothing that says that they can't be.
And we were talking to a partner of ours who works with larger companies. And the idea here is that the top salesperson would create GPTs that would be utilized by other salespeople, right? So that again, leveraging the best to raise the level of everybody.
I think, again, I don't want to go down to a rabbit hole here, but I think that's a really cool thing with ChatGPT or these AI models, whatever.
Yeah.
Is that you can train it on all the things that you know or do or whatever. And I imagine, and maybe it's not 100% there now, but like eventually you can create a copy of yourself, and then anyone in the company can talk to Suzy or Steve or Matt. You gotta have a Dave. There's no Dave here.
There's no
Dave's not here, man.
Dave's on my coffee cup somewhere.
I think that we got that in stereo.
Yeah. But that's from the old Cheech and Chong album. Dave's not here, man.
Oh, Dave's not here. Dave's not here, man. Yeah. What? Yeah.
Open up. It's Dave.
Open up.
Dave's not here, man.
I totally remember that.
Yep.
Oh my
Helping
gosh.
But yeah, that idea of digital twin isn't actually in the future.
There are companies that are producing that kind of thing. In fact, that's one of the partners we're talking with.
Oh, nice. Well, very cool. So let's land on this. So you've talked about the matrix. You talked about what you're providing for, you have a course or something. So what exactly are you doing, and how does somebody enter into your world?
Yeah. So we have a free offer for the listeners, and I can put we'll make sure it's in the show notes, the URL that people need to go to sign up for an opportunity to take a masterclass free. This is a $2,000 value at $2,000 per year. But it takes you through how to create your own matrix, for your specific job, because AI will create a matrix for you, but it's not going to be exactly right. So it'll need a little bit of tweaking. But this masterclass teaches you how to do this. We'll get you a year of this access for free for your entire company.
Thank you for doing that.
And then the thing that we offer is the the 8 belts of training from white belt through black belt that goes with this, that enables you to build the tools that we've been talking about.
Very cool. And do you two hang out anywhere on the World Wide Web if somebody wanted to like message you or ask you questions?
Oh,
are
yeah.
you on LinkedIn? Are you on Twitter? Where are you?
We're both always accessible on LinkedIn. That's a really great way to reach out. And we also have Calendly, which we can also include in the show notes if somebody wants to get in touch with us and talk more and figure out how they can use it in their business.
Very good.
We love helping people. We want people to succeed. And so, right, having the doors open to help people as wide as we possibly can. So
awesome. Well, thank you for doing that. We need more people like you in the world helping. We need the helpers. But Suzy, Steve, Dave, thank you. Dave's not here, man. Thank you for joining us. It's been really a real pleasure. Like I said, I could talk about AI all day long. Maybe we'll have to have a part 2 someday and dig into some more stuff, but appreciate your time.
Thank you
Thanks
so much, Matt. Thanks a lot.
That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you're interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.